I want to share this story that happened a couple of years ago that I'm actually still quite ashamed to admit, but I think it's necessary to begin this video with that story. So, two, about 2 to 3 years ago during COVID time, a pair of very good friends of mine bought their first property together. They are a couple, they are around my age. We have the same sort of level of education. We'd been friends for a while and we get along very well. Um, at that time, I was not ready to buy a property. So when this happened, when they let me know that they had actually became homeowners, I was overwhelmed with envy and jealous that I couldn't even bring myself to attend their homecoming housewarming party. I had to make up some very dumb excuses and decline the invitation because I just could not handle the jealousy that was in my mind because they had managed to accomplish something that I wasn't able to do at the time. I was just so beaten up by it that I felt paralyzed. So it's been a couple of years now, and I felt like at this point a lot of things have changed. I have grown up, hopefully, by quite a lot. So I'm able to look back at this incident with a bit more clarity and sort of see for myself and unpack for myself what actually happened there. So I realized that it wasn't the house that I was envious of. I mean, there were plenty of properties available for purchase. Just because they bought that particular property didn't necessarily mean that I could not have bought another one. I don't think it was my friends themselves that really that really created this sense of jealousy either. We had been friends for a while, and I up to this day, I truly adore them. I think at the core of this, it was the fact that they managed to achieve something that I wasn't able to at the time, but I thought I should have been able to, that really caused this corrosive feeling of jealousy in my heart. It was the sense of it was the it, yeah, it was a sense of self inadequacy that really crippled me. I felt like at the time my self image and my pride in my own ability was hurt. I have been thinking about this for a while, and I'm going to do my best here to summarize my thought as to how I think envy slash jealousy is created. And I had to write this down, so bear with me here. So in my opinion, jealousy is caused when there is a perceived equal or close to equal input that leads to a perceived unequal outcome that is relevant to other party. So this sounds really wordy, but it is how I could best summarize my thought on this matter. So we're going to unpack this together. And you might have heard the word perceived being mentioned twice in this definition of mine because it's important to note that in there that it's perceived, because I feel like all of this thought process, all of this, comparison was really in my mind, and whether it was subjectively true or not, it was quite difficult to say. And what I really meant here is envy and jealousy is created when I perceived that I was on equal footing with my friends, and the proxy that I used for that was, we were around the same age, we had the same level of education, our family background were not that different. So I felt like, okay, so I felt like the input that we put in were somewhat equal, but the output, which is the fact that they had managed to buy a house, was not the same. I had wanted to be a homeowner for the longest time, but I wasn't able to do that at that point. But they had already managed to do it. So that is the unequal outcome. But the outcome has to be something relevant to either party. So say if my friend and I were to had were to put in an equal amount of practice and effort for something that I didn't truly care about, for example, to be able to hold the longest breath, for example, something that I would not care about, I don't think I would have been jealous of that. But home ownership and progress is something that I cared greatly about at that time. And even now, that's why it's very relevant to me. So I feel like the biggest flaw in my simplistic thinking at the time was assuming that the input was equal. Um, and by that, I mean, most of the time, we only see what we could see, what our eyes could see, which is, the best, the most, outward looking thing, all the markers of success. But we can't see or feel things that remain unsaid and unseen behind, behind the scene, behind the final product. Knowing now, knowing now what I didn't know then, every time I catch myself being jealous of someone else, of what they've achieved or what they have, I ask myself this question. I ask, am I willing to swap my life with this person completely so that I could achieve the same result? So I find that every time I ask myself this question, it does two good things. Number one, it sort of immediately pulls me back to the ground and reminds me of all the good things that I have been fortunate enough to enjoy or to build up to this point in my life that I would not ever give up for the world, for anything else. All of the relationships that I've built, all of the knowledge that I have accumulated, these are the precious treasure that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And number two, this question reminds me that there are so many things in the background that I don't see, that someone might have to put in to achieve what they have. And in the case of my friend, they had they had to agree between themselves that in order to afford a house, which is an appreciating asset, and I'm not saying here whether this is a good or bad decision, they had agreed to cut back all of the discretionary spending so that they could maintain and service the house. So they weren't able to travel as much as they would like. They weren't able to eat out as much as they would have liked, on top of other sacrifices as well that I didn't find out until somewhat recently. So yeah, on top of reminding myself how lucky I have it, this question really makes me think about the other unseen and unheard factors that has that had gone into making this decision or into building a product or into achieving a goal that I'm not seeing, that I might have overlooked when doing my initial assessment, and whether I think I should be able to do something or not. I think of this as, if you want to gain muscle, you have to work out. You can't just think about it and miraculously gain muscle. This is what it is. If you want that result, if you want that goal, you have to be able to willing to put in the same effort and and effort, and resources. And if you're not willing to do that, I think any form of jealousy or envy is very premature and kind of silly, to be honest. I mean, I cannot proclaim myself to be completely free of any form of envy. I actually think that a low to moderate amount of um, envy is quite healthy, because um, it can really open up to yourself what you really care about, and what you care about, and it kind of and it might be able to actually give you a little bit of push to achieve a further goal. But an excessive level of jealousy is incredibly corrosive, as in it can ruin relationships. But if left unchecked, it is capable of eating away at the goodness of your heart. So, to the best of my ability, I try to ground myself and remind myself of how lucky I've had it, and that a lot of other people, in order to achieve what they have had to put in a lot of effort that I myself may not be willing to do the same. And just by asking myself this question, I think I've managed to tame my envy to a minimum healthy level. I would love to hear in the comment section if you have a similar story to share, or you have another method in helping you coping, dealing with jealousy. I would love to hear about it. If you're still here with me, thank you very much for listening to my story and sharing this journey with me. Take care, and I hope to see you in the next video very soon.